Welcome back. There are so many highly anticipated games coming out in February, it's insane. Delays out of 2023 have meant that this month has a bumper crop of AAA titles like Suicide Squad, Final Fantasy, and Skull and Bones, and also highly anticipated indies, Sons of the Forest, Last Epoch, Stormgate, and more. There's something for everyone. And by the way, if you want to know about more releases as they come out every week, on Ghost we use our daily newsletter loading screen to highlight game releases and surprise hits as they appear. So if this video is your kind of thing, check out bellular.ghost.io. Okay, let's go. Coming from the long-running Granblue Fantasy series, Granblue Fantasy Relink is coming out on February the 1st, and it is the first full console and PC RPG release. It's really going down a treat with reviewers. Cygames, having taken over from Platinum early in development, have basically managed to release something that is selling audiences on the world of Granblue. There are just heaps of praise being thrown onto the combat system, and also some excellent character writing. Now, there do seem to be some early teething issues with the PC release, but if you can get past those, this actually seems to be an excellent entry for the series that, you know, won't ask you to go and learn, like, a fighting game. Or do gacha mechanics. Then next, coming out on February 2nd, we've got Persona 3 Reload, that basically is an excellent way for modern fans to get into that game. Of course, if you're used to, say, like, you know, P5 and how it's slick and all, well, this is basically the version of P3 for you to, you know, go and dive into. And also in the second, we of course have Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Oh boy, it's had bad press between its years out-of-date design intent to the dozens of issues between delays, staff departures, and more. Thing is, though, now that it's arrived, it really doesn't seem as bad as it could have been. Early reviews and previews are certainly not going to be putting this in any Game of the Year lists, and even Looter Shooter of the Year lists won't really have it either. The campaign ends and then it just gets into endgame content, but for people who want a very specific blend of, you know, DC Comics and a middling Looter Shooter, this seems, you know, to be fine, maybe even fine plus, rather than being an abomination, with of course a campaign that plenty of people are actually enjoying. But let's still set some expectations beyond that. If you don't want to play a looter shooter, this probably is not for you, and if you don't want an aggressive murdering of various Justice League people and instead want, you know, a nice end to a superhero narrative, maybe check out Rocksteady's Arkham Knight instead. Then next on the 5th, we have Steam Nextfest. This will be fairly big. We'll see a big slice of essentially what 2024's gaming will be, and very excitingly, this is the first big public open beta for Stormgate. It is coming from a studio built by the people who made StarCraft, Warcraft, and Command & Conquer. There's just such a pedigree that they have that this game also will have to live up to. But based on the response to the closed beta so far, it might just do that. This new beta also brings a new Chris Metzen voiced hero, multiple new units, as well as a $10,000 prize pool invitational tournament. So in between playing it, well, we can watch, hopefully, a whole new esport be born. Moving on to the 6th, Square Enix don't want us to compare Foamstars with Splatoon, but come on, let's just call a colorful terrain painting third-person team shooter a spade. Now, this is Square Enix's attempt to cash in on the success of that title with their own follow-up. But here's the thing, though. The early previews for Foamstars are really good. Somehow, right, the addition of the foam that creates a 3D platform for like blocking shots and traversal, that's actually worked, and it's changed the Splatoon formula enough to actually stand out. Though the smartest play by Square Enix here might just be partnering with Sony to have this be a PS Plus freebie for the month, sort of echoing Rocket League and Fall Guys before it. So yeah, if you have PS Plus, may as well check it out. Next then, the wins keep on going for Sony because on the 8th of February, Sony's first actual live service under their big new business plan releases. It's Helldivers 2. It's coming out on PS5 and PC. It's from Arrowhead Studios, and, well, they are just famed for their spectacular, effects-laden top-down shooters, like the original Magic, remember that? Gauntlet and Helldivers 1. Helldivers 2, though, moves to a third-person perspective, which I think might actually crack it open for more players. But of course, it's bringing that level of style and bombast that they're known for, as you're just slaying all of the Zerg-like aliens and robots, which, I mean, hey, with like how strong their effects work is, when you're right down there in the action, I think that'll be pretty damn sick. Now, the early marketing for this game has been playing up the co-op and the Starship Troopers style satire, but the recent reveal of the game's real-time global campaign map might be secret sauce, because that's actually them doing something really damn cool. Okay, then, next, launching just the day before Valentine's, Donut Entertainment are giving us a tragic love story in the form of a third-person action RPG about trying to restore your love from her death. Banishers Ghosts of New Eden is a spiritual successor to Vampire, and much like with it, we're blending combo-driven combat with a lot of thematic choices. As the titular Banishers, well, she's dead, you're not, and you'll be traveling the new world finding a way to bring her back. This involves using ghost powers, ghost banishing, some regular weapons, all in the service of a story that asks how far you're going to be going for love. Honestly, sounds neat, and hey, I'm kind of into what they do. Next for February, we've got a stunning-looking Metroidvania. This time, the developer, Hadouke, I think, is collaborating with the musical artist El Cuervo, who you might know from, say, Hotline Miami, bringing us Ultros, which looks goddamn gorgeous. I mean, man. Okay, so we're finding ourselves in a luminously graphical spaceship being tasked with uncovering the secrets of an ancient being called Ultros, locked within, all while engaging in precision combat and exploration platforming. The twist in this one, though, is that the team essentially wants players to be taking a moment of reflection with the central mechanic of gardening and planting seeds as they go, in order to essentially alter that environment around them. So that's a fun spin in a Metroidvania. It's certainly a slightly out there pitch for a game. It's got a sort of out there art style. I think for Metroidvania fans, though, that's just a lot of interesting components. It's one to watch out for. Next, we've got a game from the Embracer Group, who, yes, are actually killing studios left, right, and center this year. But on the 14th, they've got Esper Media and Crystal Dynamics bringing us a remaster of all 3 original Tomb Raider games and their expansions. Now, this is no Resident Evil 4 remake or anything like that. It is very much the original games. They will work. Smoother textures, a graphics toggle, modern control schemes, that sort of thing. Properly reliving the old games rather than a reinvention, but hey, I think it's worth checking out. It's a pretty big part of game history, actually. Then releasing on the same day, we've got Solium Infernum from League of Geeks. Like with Tomb Raider, it is technically a remaster, a remake of an older game, this time one from 2009. A cult hit, a stylish hex-based grand strategy game about archfiends conquering hell that's for up to 6 players, but with the wrinkle that each player can only issue 2 orders per turn, and that does mean that long-term planning and strategy is, quite impacted from those limits. This is the kind of classic strategy game that honestly would be perfect for the play-by-email era, so I suppose the question then is, how will that play with a 2024 audience? Okay, next, all eyes are obviously on Nintendo because we are waiting for an expected announcement of a Switch successor later this year. But till then, they're still raiding the cupboards for releases. We've got Mario vs. Donkey Kong. That is a 2004 Game Boy Advance game that now, 20 years later, is being remastered for the Switch on the 16th. It's a Mario puzzle platformer that's already a remake of a well-received title, so basically, yeah, you know it's going to be polished, it's going to be solid. If you didn't play it 20 years ago, it's probably still a bloody good game, so play it now. Then, Lord willing, on the 16th of February, in the year of 2024, Skull and Bones will release. Skull and Bones, a game that has been in development since Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Yeah, so essentially pirate-themed action RPG, you sail out, do quests, fight other pirate ships and players, but unfortunately, that does seem to be it. The game's heritage as an Assassin's Creed follow-up has kind of been lost to time alongside any mechanics that involved you, not being a ship. Very much it almost feels like you're not a person with a ship. No, you're just a ship floating about the place. Look, honestly, nobody's expecting this to be great. I think few are even expecting it to be good. Its sheer quantity of delays suggests an absolutely, massive and chaotic development hell. But after a recent endgame reveal, Ubisoft say they're at least committed to, releasing this game and supporting it for a while. So if you really want your pirate fix, there is an open beta in the 8th that you can try before you drop any money on it. Who knows? Maybe we'll be surprised. I'm certainly not holding out hope. The Thaumaturge from Fool's Theory and 11-Bit Studios is February's entry for really the ongoing CRPG renaissance that we find ourselves in. Man, I'm so into this. Okay, It is set in turn of the 19th century Warsaw. Players are exploring a city under the rule of the Russian Tsars while battling the supernatural goings-on that are plaguing the city. And the goal here is to have the relationship-building dialogue of a CRPG, but a world where you can literally have characters face their demons and maybe change their mind that way. Early previews for this game have been very positive in the quality of the writing and the kind of innovative and bizarre mix of historical fact and speculative horror. To me, it just seems like a real creative powerhouse. Very awesome. Next, we've got something bittersweet. The final game of Riot Forge. Riot Forge being their indie publishing label that is now shut down. The game is Bandle Tale, a League of Legends story that brings an end to that label's short-lived existence. It's from the devs behind the hit game Graveyard Keeper. It's an isometric crafting role-playing game that will essentially see you taking the role of Yordles in a way that League or Runeterra simply can't. So yeah, for the last of Riot Forge, it certainly is a cozy slice of that world. Moving on to something much less cozy, much more fighty, and currently in early access, launching into a full release on the 21st of February, we've got Last Epoch. This is a game hoping that its 5 years-ish of development since the first alpha will be the start of a new era for this indie ARPG. I've seen it all over the internet. This is a game that is founded by fans of ARPGs that basically want to make the game that they want to play. And to be honest, that's how so many great games get made. So, hell yeah. In this case, with the 1.0 release, it's getting visual updates, new systems, new classes, as well as the beginning of its cadence of post-launch, essentially cycles, basically a seasonal release schedule for game updates. Of course, we've got Path of Exile and Diablo 4, both representing very different kinds of ARPGs for people to enjoy. Hopefully this is one that will be able to get established and get loved. I've certainly seen a lot of buzz, so yeah, I wish him luck. Then for the 22nd of February is unofficially Survival Games Day. Of course, in a year that's already seen Palworld and Enshrouded feed that audience well. Well, they'll be fed to bursting point because first up, we've got the single-player title Pacific Drive. It's the first game from Ironwood Studios. Essentially, you're in the Pacific Northwest of America. You're trapped inside the exclusion zone around a sci-fi disaster, and there's no way out. All you've got is a beaten-up station wagon, access to a garage, and a radio that'll let you talk to other inhabitants. And the aim is very simple. Escape the zone by gathering resources to improve your car while, not getting wrecked by the anomalies. Sounds neat, and the team at Ironwood are also hoping to have an intriguing narrative and just kind of compelling vibes, have a world that really entices people to try the game out. Essentially, if you're going to be doing a game like this, definitely try to make it feel different. They're absolutely, I think, going for that. They've got no co-op, no multiplayer, so it's definitely a different brand of survival game, and to be honest, a sort of survival narrative thing, I'm totally down for that. The next, then, is Sons of the Forest. This was already one of the biggest games on Steam in 2023, and it leaves early access on the 22nd. Endnight Games followed up The Forest by doubling down on the survival and the horror of the original. We've got new tools, new cannibals, while also adding NPC companions to change up the core gameplay. And after a year of early access, responding to player requests, and also working out their own roadmap for the world and the story, Sons of the Forest is an already highly polished and improved experience, so the release build essentially marks the culmination of all of that work, and will be a pretty damn big draw. But if you want a survival game that's a bit more fantastical, maybe under the steampunk umbrella, we've got the Victorian-themed Nightingale from ex-BioWare developers at Inflection Games. It's finally releasing into early access after 7 delays. It's got your classic survival game elements. Yes, you need to, gather materials, craft gear, build a base to find your way to the final objective. Here, though, that is all built around a dimension-generating mechanic that is full of esoteric flora and fauna, where players are using specific resources to craft the specific type of map that they want to travel to in order to get specific high-end gear, which means that there's sort of a sense of progression and development that's intrinsic to the game, that's not just like you just ticking off a tech tree. So they're actually trying to shake it up. I commend that. Okay, next, on the 28th, we've got a pair of smaller remasters for audiences as everybody, of course, stays away from Square's behemoth release that rounds off the end of the month. So, Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons is a hyper-popular indie title from 2013. It's made by It Takes Two creator Josef Fares and Starbreeze Studios. The original publisher 505 Games has tasked one of its internal studios, Avant Garden, with remaking it. for 2024. New graphical fidelity, a newly recorded soundtrack, polished up mechanics, and look, honestly, this is just an incredible game. One of the ways it wowed people is the unique control scheme where each player was using half of the controller for each, of course, of the titular brothers, and then you went and, solved puzzles and navigated a quest to save their dying father. It was a truly marvelous game, so, you can just play it already, but if you want a more shiny version, you can do that too. Next, an exciting one because it's from Night Dive Studios, who have got an amazing track record of reviving classic properties. The game is Star Wars Dark Forces, and this is this is such an important game. It came out in 1995. There's obviously loads of Doom in its DNA, but this is the game that first allowed players to look around the screen, to jump. And it's also very much beloved by the Star Wars people because it's the first appearance of a fan favorite character, Kyle Katarn. So yeah, with a legacy like that, Night Dive certainly have got their work cut out for them, but hey, it's what they do best, so pretty excited. And then we got the 29th. Brings us to Square Enix's attempt to rewrite history once more as Final Fantasy VII Rebirth grapples with the ending of Final Fantasy VII Remake and tries to work out what comes next. As the developers and narrative wrestle with FF7's canon to explore what really that story truly means. From a gameplay perspective, though, things are opening up quite a lot, because now free of Midgard, Cloud & Company will be in a Witcher-inspired open-world map that will let them freely explore and traverse through an expanded interpretation of the second third of the original game. Quite something, and for those who didn't like the changes of the original remake, the trailers suggest things will only be going more off the rails. But if you're kind of down for the idea of a reinterpretation of FF7's themes and story, well, you probably already knew you were on board for this one. Oh man, that's your lot. February seeing a lot of games from big developers that have been delayed out of 2023 finally coming out, between like Suicide Squad, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Skull and Bones. It's quite a lot. To be honest though, the game that truly has my heart, it is Stormgate, because come on man, someone's got to ensure that StarCraft lives on. So hell yeah to that. It's a crazy good month for games, and funny enough, on maybe the 24th, it is the 1 year anniversary of our game, The Pale Beyond, which that's certainly a funny thing to think about. Anyway, that's the crack with us. Of course, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what games you're excited about, be it this month or still upcoming ones. That's it from me. You can check out some of the other news videos on our channel, and of course, every month, we will be doing our roundup of what games there are to look forward to. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.